What's up, family? Today is July 12th, Sunday, and I've just seen the additional information about Nolan Wells, and it looks like the no foul play suspected was some straight up BS, y'all. It looks like that boy was beaten to death by some old crusty, jealous, drunk white boys. I wish that wasn't the case, but there's a few things that I've learned in life about white folks that I usually don't say out loud, but I'm gonna tell y'all today, because what happened to Nolan Wells did not have to happen. It was unnecessary, and it goes to show you the nature of some, not all, but some white people. And it's what some of us know, and those of you who don't, you're gonna learn today, and you need to take heed. So I grew up in the city, New York City to be exact, and my first professional job was in the suburbs of New Jersey. It wasn't a place easy to get to. In New York City, a lot of people don't drive, so I didn't drive. Public transportation was not easy. And so there was only one other person who looked like me and worked in a different department. So there must have been anywhere from 60 to 100 people that sat on this floor, and I was the only person that looked like me. I'm going to take that back. There were two other older women and one older gentleman, so four. I came in through a class of new hires and a cohort of new hires. And one thing was they were always trying to get me to come out with them after work. And I always said no. Not because I had any fears about being with them, but because I didn't want to have to deal with the logistics of getting home. And so you didn't have Uber and, taxis all time of the day and night. And I recognize that New York City is a place where you can get a pastrami sandwich at 3 a.m. if you want. It's almost like the land of wishes. Pretty much it's open all night. Anything you want, you can find it. But places outside of the city are not like that. And so I at least recognize that, being a young person and not having a parent to guide me because they had already passed on by the time I graduated from college, and just not something I wanted to be bothered with. It's not that I didn't like them. They were fine. I went to lunch with them sometimes, but I just didn't want to go through that. And so the place they were going, I had been there at lunchtime. I did not see any need for going there. I'm not a bar person. At that time, I was a club person, right? Black kids go to the club, so not to the bar so much. So I just wasn't feeling it. And sometimes God had just put a spirit in you. You don't even realize that it's intuition that young. But that was protection. And I say that because within the next 5 to 10 years, I came to understand that white folks are not where you want to be when they're drinking and you're the only one who looks like you. Okay. I don't really like being around people who get drunk and act a fool anyway, but I went to a baseball game with my coworkers because we got some free tickets, and the guy sitting behind me had been drinking, and he decided it was time to tousle my hair. He didn't even know me. I was ready to fight. I was fighting mad, and he just couldn't understand why I would be so upset. So, that taught me something. I'm pretty good at picking up on the lessons, right? And like I said, I didn't have any parents when I was, a young adult, so I am really grateful to God that he let me pick up on lessons pretty quickly. Now, the field I worked in, there was pretty much never anybody who looked like me. 4 was a lot. So, and 2 of those people did other types of work, right? They weren't professional people. They were administrative people. So there's a lot of stupidity that happens when people who I now know over the past few months seem to have been brainwashed from birth that black people are dangerous, Black people are less than, you need to stay away from them, and you're superior, okay? But these people at work seem to be trying, but some of them would just let stupid stuff pop out their mouths. And I understood who they were when I had been working with them for 2 years. We got a new coworker, and I didn't find him particularly impressive, but all the white girls seemed to think that this white guy was so funny and so forth. I thought he was an asinine punk, to be quite honest with you, but I thought that about a lot of men, so he wasn't unique, but I just didn't see oh, he's so funny. Oh, we must talk to him because he'll make us laugh. I thought his jokes were corny. So we went out to lunch, and they asked him about, let's see, I think it was some antiquing, an auction that he had gone to over the weekend, and how was that, right? So now it's almost like a talk show format, right? He comes on the Johnny Carson show, they set him up with a question, and then he tells the jokes. That's how these people operated. So he said, well, it was fine. Oh, well, what was there? What did you buy? Well, they had a black doll. Nobody wanted that because it was black. And they all laughed. Now, our 2 managers were there. One of them turned to me, a Jewish woman, and she said, she just looked at me. I was very upset. Tears came to my eyes. I couldn't even speak. I had never really been through any blatant racist statement like that before, but I was brokenhearted because these people were supposed to be my friends. Okay. My immediate supervisor I don't even think he reacted. So after that, I was like, okay, I see where the bread is buttered, F all of you. And so after that, I treated them all with a long-handled spoon. And so one of them came to me and said, oh, that guy thinks you don't like him. I said, well, why would I like him? He made a racist statement at lunch. And you all laughed, by the way. Oh, you shouldn't be so sensitive. This is a chick who always told me the story about her encounter with chitlins. And I told her multiple times, I don't eat chitlins. Okay? So you can stop telling me that story. So my point is that the thing that I've noticed about white people is you can be as close to them as you think you are. But they always think that they're superior to you. And it will eventually come out. So if you think you're superior to me and you can't be friends. Right? And so the example I gave you was a small one, but I've had it happen a couple of other times because of that one incident. I never say, okay, let me stay away from that group of people. In general, I stayed away from the group of people that offended me, but that's not all people who look like them. So I've always prided myself on having the rainbow coalition of friends. And so I love different cultures and seeing those cultures through the eyes of other people and having that exchange. So I've had all kinds of friends. So I had a couple of white girlfriends who I was very close to. I lent money to one of them. I knew all about her family. I met her sister. We met at work, but I met her sister and her aunt, and I knew her husband well, and so forth. And I would go to visit her in Florida, and we went to Disney World together, meet her and her husband, and so forth. So I stayed at her house, knew all about her in-law issues and so forth. And one day she's telling me about how her husband is kind of sexist and tells her to go get him a drink. And she's like, "Why can't you get your own drink? I'm no darker than you are." I was like, what? I had already known this woman 10 years. I said, what did you say? So she said it again. I said, well, what does that mean exactly? So she looked at me like, what the F? You don't know what that means? And she thought about it and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. 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 There's the same woman who I used to tell that the people would be following me around in the stores when I was trying to shop, and she didn't believe me. I said, okay, when we go out at lunchtime, you watch and see what they do. And after 2 trips out, she said, they really are following you. I said, yeah, they are. So eventually that friendship ended. It didn't end that day that I just told you about, but yeah, that was the beginning of the end with the darker comment. And then I had another white girlfriend that I thought I was close to. We traveled together. Our kids played together. And she would make comments like, she was going through a divorce, and she would make comments like, my black friends are helping me more than my white friends. I would just look at her like, what a wild thing to say, right? But I just let it go. We used to hang out on the weekends together. We would go to the casino together, we would hang out. So then one day, her husband started to have an affair while they were going through the divorce. He moved on. They weren't finished in whatever court proceedings they had. And so he started to date somebody who worked at the daycare where she took her kids. And I think that person was either black or Latino. It seems like they were Latino, but they might have been black because of the statement that she made, which was, oh, he's so racist. I can't believe that he's dating that woman. He is completely, totally racist. And that's not going to fly. This is still the South. And I was like, what? What is that supposed to mean? She didn't say a word. I said, because it sounds like what you're saying is, you think that you're better than I am because your skin is different from mine. She didn't say a word. I said, we've traveled together. You visited my home. Our kids have played together. Her kids were good. They treated my child well. She treated my child well. So I was really shocked and amazed, but mostly hurt. I said, I don't think of myself as better than anybody else, but nobody else is better than me either. And, but if we were going to compare, I'm educated. You're not. I'm a homeowner. You're not. I have a good job. You don't. And when you start, because she had been a stay-at-home mom for a while, and when you go back to work, you will make less money than I do because we do different types of work. So if I was going to choose one of us better than the other, I think it's me. But I don't think I'm better than anybody. She never said a word. I said, so you think you're better than me? She wouldn't answer the question. I said, well, okay, I take that as a yes, and we're not friends no more. So what I've learned is no matter how tight you are, how tight you think you are, they still think there's a hierarchy, okay? And it can break down at any time. And at this point, black people, family, we're taking shots from all sides. All sides. We got Nolan Wells. That case is so close to my heart, not because of what I just said, but also because I have a son who is older than him, but he has a lot of white friends. And I recently let him go to New Hampshire. I mean, he's a grown man. I really couldn't stop him, but he still does live in my house. And if I tell him not to go, he won't do it. He's never doing that again. And you would have thought I was the CIA the way I investigated the town, making sure it's not a sundown town. I knew the boy that he was going to hang out with, and I had a conversation with him. I did all types of investigated stuff, and I stopped just short of driving him up there myself just to make sure he was okay. But I took him to the bus. There's a bus that you take up there, so I took him to the bus. He took the bus back, and when that same friend of his was here in this area, I made sure that he got back to where he was going. So he was man too at the time. He's like, oh, you don't have to do that. I said, yes, you do, because yes, I do, because you're somebody's child. And this is what I would want somebody to do for my child. You're not familiar with this area. You're going to get on this bus, and I'm just going to make sure that you get on the correct bus and you're headed the right way to go home. So I'll tell you one thing, my son is never going again. And at this point, between Nolan and, this is just a parent's worst nightmare. And every time my son goes out somewhere, this is what I'm worried about. And I think all black parents are worried too. But for those parents whose kids have a lot of friends of different cultures, it's an extra worry. Between this and Carmelo Anthony and the YouTube videos from white people I've seen, they're not on YouTube. Some of them are other, I'll say social media, because there are various sources saying your kids are not safe. Keep them away from white kids or rich white kids. And these are white people saying this. You don't have to tell me twice. At this point, I just don't feel safe in the presence of these people. So black people, we just need to move different, family. We got to move differently. Now, a lot of us are going to have to work with certain groups. So I would suggest that we maintain a professional and polite posture. Don't talk about your family. Don't talk about your personal business. Keep the people at arm's length, because they're always going to have a problem with you anyway. Okay, so they're not safe to be around. They're just not. Not all of them, but too many of them. And we have no way of telling one from the other by looking. So this is about protection. Okay, you got to just protect yourself. And my heart goes out to the Wells family, because now they're saying, well, there's a lot of new information, and they're saying there was foul play in those, and that he was beaten. And probably jealousy, because he was off to football camp to become a football star, and they weren't. That's another thing that I've noticed about some white folks. They're deeply jealous, deeply, deeply jealous and competitive. In the workplace, there's always some white person that is in a secret competition with me. Listen, I know my stuff, so I feel like there's no competition, right? So I would never compete with you. I only compete with my last performance in my own head. I don't compete with my coworkers. But yeah, we got to move different. We got to keep to ourselves, be professional and polite, because we need to work, but support each other's businesses, support each other's professions, and stay safe, family, because these people are dangerous. Okay. And I don't think it's only them, but they seem to be the only group that actively goes out and hunts people. We've been taking shots from all sides, the Latinos and people who just couldn't wait to say the N-word, and Asians, and all of them. Even some Arabs, and I'm seeing different things on social media. I don't really care what these people think about me. I know who I am. I know I'm a good person. I know I'm spiritual, and I care what God thinks about me, okay, and my close family members, and that's it. But the monitoring spirit they have, the can't mind your business, approaching people, trying to get black people to be reactive so that they can start a situation, and all of that BS. Stay away from these people, because they are really and truly dangerous. They're not good for your health. So protect yourself. We don't want any more slow singing and flower bringing. And to the Wells family, I'm so sorry you're going through this. My heart goes out to you, his mom and his dad, especially his dad, because a lot of people always support the mom, and it's not that I don't support her. I do support her. I feel her pain, but sometimes they kind of forget about the dad, or he's just an add-on, and he's still got to hold that family together. That's his role. And he's got other children. They both do. So, of course, they both do, because they have the children together. I'm so silly, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. I don't know how they're doing it, but I wish them all the strength and love and protection that God can give them, which is never ending. And I haven't forgotten about Carmelo Anthony, free Carmelo. And in both those cases, just added to the pain of Sandra Bland and Trayvon Martin and Amadou Diallo and Eleanor Bumpers, and it's too much. It's too much. When it comes to Nolan, Xavier Wells, lock them up, lock them all up. All the children, the law enforcement, the parents, all of them. Everybody got to do some time. And in the case of Carmelo Anthony, same thing goes. The prosecutor, the law enforcement, what kind of investigation was that? The defense attorney and the judge. I never heard tell of, oh, we have the video. Any member of the public wants to come down and take a look at it, come on down and you can see it. Is that so you can see who saw it? And exclude them from the jury? I mean, what is that for? So, this is all horrible. But the one thing that gives me hope is that there are just as many white people on social media saying, this doesn't smell right, as there are black people. And other people of color as well. I saw some Asians saying, you know what, he's part Asian and we need to support. I saw a Latino saying, nah, this doesn't add up. So we do still have good people in our country that are interested in justice and equality, and I'm grateful for that. But generally speaking, these are people I'm going to stay away from and keep them at arm's length because I just don't feel safe. And I'm going to demand that my adult son does the same. Okay, family, y'all continue to pray, continue to lift these two families and all of our people up, and I'll see you soon. Bye.